Hey everybody, it's Michelle. I am here to talk to you about our Patreon page. This is the page that you can go to help support our podcast with a monthly donation. When you commit to supporting us, you can get additional bonus content such as extra podcasts, our favorite playlists, our show notes, and eventually we would like to have merchandise to sell like t-shirts and baseball caps, and we would let you have first dibs at those. Of course, because we are coffee moms, we are offering membership levels that are as follows: the coffee membership, the cold brew membership, or the espresso membership. Now, no pressure whatsoever, but if you do love our podcast and you would like to help support it, you can go to patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. That is Patreon, patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. There you can choose a membership level that works for you. Melissa and I want to thank you in advance for your love and your support.
Messy Bun Mamas. I'm Joe. I'm John. I am Malcolm. Wow.
Hello.
Hey everybody.
Welcome to episode 13.
Yay, number 13. I'm going to say I actually feel obligated at this point to say yay and episode whatever after. So
I for sure thought of that the other day. I was just like, I go, hello. And then she goes,
yay.
And I go, it's episode whatever. And then you're like, yay, episode whatever. I was like, that's our intro, guys. Sorry if you hate it.
Right.
Just like they asked me the other day, they're like, are you gonna record like Rayla saying something else as she grows up? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Like,
it's just too cute.
I just feel like at a certain point after a while, it's like, do you want your favorite TV show to change their theme song?
Nope.
No, I mean, could you imagine watching Friends with a different theme song?
Mm-hmm. I hate it when my favorite TV show changes a character.
Why would you do that? That's a horrible idea. So we kind of suck at life. This is Melissa and Michelle. This is the Messy Bun Mamas podcast.
Yes.
This is episode 13, and today we're gonna talk about sharing is caring. Do you make your kids share their stuff? But before we get into that, tell me about your mama moment of the week, Michelle.
Oh, my mama moment. Me and Joe and me. So I have this time with Joe in every day. In fact, I'm going to say this, that a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, we were going to go visit friends. And I messaged her and said, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm not in a good place right now. And you may see Joe in his pajamas tomorrow morning, even though it's like 11 a.m. She's like, I don't care. I do what you want. But that's because I sincerely hate the drama of getting him dressed. And it's not that he's terrible. He's just a boy, and I get it. He's a boy, and he has energy. He has an imagination, and he loves his mom and anything else. But I hate the whole process because he's jumping up and down. He won't take his stuff off. He wants to tickle me. He wants to kiss me. He wants to go back to jumping up and down, runs off to the bathroom, runs off to the playroom. Does this have to be a 20-minute job? I mean, can you just take off your pajamas and your shirt so we can put clean stuff on? So anyway, now thank you for listening, everybody, to my therapy session. The other day we were getting him dressed and he's starting to become more vocal now. Like, I don't want to change my socks and I don't want to change this. And so we were sitting
Such
there.
a magical time for you.
It's super awesome to argue with a 4-year-old about why they have to do this. So we were changing his clothes And he looks at me and he says, I said, take off your pajama bottoms and your underwear. And he said, no, I'll take off my pajama bottoms. I'm going to leave my underwear on. And I said, no, no, you're not. You're going to change your underwear. You have to change your underwear. And he's like, no, no, I'm not. I wish I could like give a whole video presentation of how it looked because it was just hilarious. He's standing there in his underwear and socks and he like pulls on the elastic part of his underwear and he pulls it out and he says, Mom, my underwear doesn't stink. Here, smell it. And he kind of like thrusts his hips out.
I'm not doing that.
Like, oh my God, why are you such a man already? This is why God gave me so many brothers. So
you're not surprised.
So I'm not surprised when my son does stuff. But it was so cute and so unexpected that just the whole presentation of it, just pulling on the waistband of his underwear and like, it doesn't smell or it doesn't stink, smell it. So that was my mom moment for the week. That kid keeps me just rolling. I'm so in trouble once his vocabulary really expands. So all right, let me know about your mama moment of the week.
Okay, so I don't know if I'm the only one, but does anybody else like low-key like eavesdrop when your spouse is making memories with your kid?
Yes, I do.
So I try, like, I'm that person who, if my husband is making memories with my kids, I try really hard to like low-key snoop and see if I can get pictures or video or whatever. Well, obviously I'm working remote. We've talked about it before, but yesterday I was doing laundry or something in the evening and I could hear Rayla laughing. And so I like snuck out of the laundry room and I like peeked around the corner and she was like hiding behind the door jamb between the kitchen and the dining room and she was sticking her head out and like scaring her dad, and he was like pretending to jump and like be scared, and then she was like laughing and like whatever, and I was just like sitting around, just like peeking around the corner or whatever, just watching them have this like cute little exchange. It just like warmed my heart so much. And she like is about done and he's making dinner or whatever, and he's just like, all right, we're gonna go for dinner, and I'm like hiding behind the corner that she's about to walk around, so I'm like hiding behind the corner, and I'm just like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna jump out and I'm gonna scare her, and it's gonna be this like cute little moment that I'm included in on and
right.
whatever. And so she like walks around the corner, I jump out, I'm like, boo, and she goes, ah! And there's like a huge meltdown, and she's crying, and
oh, poor Rayla. The drama.
I ruined their cute little moment. It was like, so Mike and I are just like, Mike, like she like runs away from me to her dad. Her dad had to put down her dinner, pick her up, and she's just like sobbing because I terrified her.
Right.
And I'm just like, all right.
Well, ruined the magical moment. High five, Mom.
You didn't know I was gonna go there.
I didn't. I was like, oh, this is really sweet.
I ruined it.
I've done it.
I was just like tucked my tail between my legs, went back to the laundry room, continued to leave laundry. It was just like, alrighty,
I'm
then
gonna go back to my corner.
Fun.
Right. Oh.
So yeah, that was my mom moment this week. It was definitely like Mike came later and he's just like, it's okay, she just doesn't like super, like you can scare her, but you have to like fake scare her. He was giving me the lowdown of how to interact with my child. It was fantastic.
The parent parenting the parent.
Yeah. So we will get into our topic of the week after this short break.
Hi, this is Melissa from the Messy Bun Mamas podcast, and I want to talk to you today about Anchor. This app, let me be real honest, is basically lifesaver. I got the random idea, on a Tuesday that I wanted to try and hit up my mom friends and try and get a podcast going, and Anchor has made it so smooth. I downloaded this app, at 7 a.m. on a Saturday, got my plug and play microphone, and we were able to go in, record. We had a high quality recording, and it turned out great. And I didn't have to take any of the tutorials or anything like that. So if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's a safe and easy way to make a podcast. It's also free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, which is amazing. So I don't have to feel like a failure if nobody listens to me talk. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. For example, we just recorded our first episode and I was already able to go in and remove something really stupid that I said. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, so I want to talk about sharing today. And this is like it's a very weird mentality that I feel like sometimes we have when it comes to parenting and sharing and whatever. And there's all sorts of things that you can find about sharing online. So I'm going to kind of like breeze over a few things that I found because I think it's important for you guys to kind of hear how we deal with the situation because there's not any like scientific recommendation as far as like sometimes they say sharing's good, sometimes they say that sharing is bad, sometimes I can't say that many sounds in one sentence and it not sound like gibberish. So I also think that the fact that we teach our kids to always be so willing to give up their stuff is a very interesting mentality, I feel like. So the reason I want to talk about this is because when it comes to my kids, so we have obviously 3 little kids in the house. We have a 7-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And I don't always make them share. And some people have made comments to me about like, well, you should teach them how to share better. And I'm just like, should I though? Does John really have to share his iPad with his 1-year-old sister? Like, that's John's thing. Why does he have to share it? Number one, she's going to break it.
Right.
You know, when Belinda's here, if she's on her cell phone, I don't force her to share her cell phone with the kids. And like, let's be honest, like a phone is basically a toy.
Right.
You know, it's very easy for us when the kids get new things. We have that boundary of like, it's a new toy. You don't ever have to share a new toy with a friend, with anybody. You don't have to share. But with like stuff that they're playing with that's like older, I feel when we tell our kids like, no, you don't have to share it. He doesn't have to share that with you. It's like people are always like taken aback by like, you're not going to make them share with each other? Nope. No, I'm not. Is it really sharing or is it they're having fun with that toy and now you're going to require them to give it to somebody else so they now can have fun with the toy?
because they decided
that they
that.
want to now play with it.
Mhm.
So I think that one of the things that I want to bring up is 11 ways to teach your child to share. 11 ways to teach your child to share. Number 1 is selfishness comes before sharing. So basically, like, it's okay to want things for yourself. That's more important than it is to share.
Okay.
So the growing child develops attachments to things as well as persons. This ability to form strong attachments is important to becoming an emotionally healthy person. A 1-year-old has difficulty sharing her mommy. Some children get so attached to a toy that the radio doll becomes part of the child's oneself. When asked to draw a picture of herself, a 4-year-old would always include her doll. Can you imagine her convincing her to share this doll with a playmate? It was too important. She could not feel safe and secure if that doll was being handled by another child. So sometimes with kids, selfishness comes before sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I needed to give you a little bit of context.
Okay.
Number 2 is when to expect a child to share. So have limitations and parameters when sharing is important and when it's not. Don't ever force a child to share, because it creates an attitude and an environment that encourages your child to always give up their stuff. Instead, you want to create an environment that encourages your child to want to share appropriately.
I agree with this.
Get connected. A child gives as they are given to. It's always important to create a give and take situation rather than like, here's all my stuff. When you're teaching your child to share, model generosity. So monkey see, monkey do. If I share, so will my child. So it's more important to teach them what situation is appropriate to share rather than being like, you can always give your things away.
Mm-hmm.
Play games. So Mike actually does this. Like, he'll play a game with like, okay, we're gonna share daddy with Malcolm and Rayla, like, during the day, because John's doing schoolwork or whatever. It'll be like, okay, we're gonna share daddy. So now daddy's Rayla's, and then like a little while later, it'll be like, okay, we're gonna share daddy. Now daddy's Malcolm's. So doing that sort of thing. Number 7 is know when to step in. While we don't expect kids to know, we should expect kids to know when it's appropriate to share their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I know adults who don't know when it's appropriate to share their stuff. Like,
Right.
you know how many adults I'll go out to eat with and they'll like take food off my plate, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
I don't know if it's because I grew up in a big family, but that's a huge issue for me. Don't touch my food. If you wanted it, then order it yourself.
I'll order dessert and people will be like, wait, a dessert. I'll be out to dinner with like 5 women and everybody's like, can I have a bite of that? I'm just like, you're eating all of my dessert.
Right.
Why is this a thing that seems okay?
Yeah.
Don't touch my stuff. Okay, so that's kind of a
side note thing, but
a glimpse into my opinion about sharing. Using a timer. So number 8 is using a timer. So rather than telling them that they have to share immediately, give everybody a specific time, set a timer, and then, once the timer goes off, then they have to share. And then once the timer goes off, they have to share it back. Number 9 is plan ahead. So if your kid has trouble, if you know your kid has trouble sharing certain toys, be prepared. Either don't bring that thing someplace or, be prepared with an alternative. So for example, my kids have a really hard time sharing Legos.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go someplace like church or whatever, I've just started bringing 2 bins of Legos. So if there's other kids that are around, like, I'll have a bin for them and I'll have a bin for us.
Right.
It's really not that hard. I took the same exact amount of Legos and I split it into 2 bins.
Right.
Like, it's not worth the fight. Number 10 is protect your child's interests as you teach your child to share. So always make sure that your child knows that, like, you're on their side, even if you're trying to correct them.
Okay.
And number 11 is give your child opportunities to share appropriately. So encourage sharing, but make sure that you're also making them have autonomy as well, where they know that, they don't just have to give their stuff away.
Right.
So I will actually share this article because I really think it's
that is a good article.
Yeah, because it's not just telling you like your kids should always share.
Right.
Which I feel like is the way that we've almost like felt like we should teach our kids. But to be honest, and I told her like 5 seconds before that like, this is what I want to do. And the interesting thing to me is that there are very few articles out there that say your kids should be sharing 100% of the time. I think it's just old people.
Right.
And I think like older people, they just were taught that you always share.
Right.
And for some reason, they've kind of impressed that upon us that you should always share.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you give me your impression, and then we can kind of go from there.
I really like this article because it kind of lines up with how I work with Joe. I will say that I found it interesting because I do have a very specific situations where I say he has to share, and very specific situations where I say, it's yours, do what you want.
Yeah.
I found it interesting when they said that to make sure that they know you're on their side, and to not really make it like a correction thing.
Mhm.
So I'm probably going to have to, but to be fair, Joe's a lot like me. And like, once it's in his head, you just got to put the foot down. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that one. That was really good. But I really, that is a very good article because there is this perception that if you bring your car to the park, it's open game for everyone. And I mean, we don't have really the issue of sharing with Joe because he's an only child. But
you do bring him out in humanity.
I do bring him out to play with other kids. And so, but even before I had him, and maybe it's because I had a bigger family, I've just always had the kind of the mind of, you don't always have to share. There are some things that are just yours, and if you don't want other people to touch them, you don't have to. And I think it's just because we had such a big family that and we lived in 2 different households, and so when we were at one house, all of my stuff was free game for anybody else that wanted to play with it. And so I think that's I think some of my thinking comes from that line of I don't feel like every one of my possessions belongs to the world.
No.
I mean, and I can definitely go into, when we're ready, to go into more detail with like where I draw my lines and stuff like that. But I have really struggled because I'm a giver, and so I love to give and share and things like that. But as I said, I also do have my lines, like, no, you cannot have one of my tamales. If you wanted a tamale, you should have ordered a tamale. And food is a big hot button issue for me.
Me too.
Stop.
I don't even like sharing with my kids.
Yeah, like, no, you can't. Can I have a yogurt? I can go get you one. And no, I want that yogurt. No, you cannot have my yogurt. So, I don't know why. It's because it's not like I'm starving, obviously, if you see pictures of me. But there are just some things that I draw the line at. You can't have that, but so I do struggle with that line of trying to teach someone share with, if you have an abundance of something, you should share and you should give. Even if you don't have an abundance, it's a good thing to share, but also teaching them to make people respect them and their,
Having healthy boundaries.
yes, because I'm going to be 45 soon and still learning to put those healthy boundaries up and being okay and comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So I that's where I struggle is teaching him, because I don't want him to grow up with people taking advantage of him.
Yeah.
So
no, for sure. So I'm all about sharing is good in some scenarios. So like if I bring my kids over to somebody's house, and you kind of mentioned this before, my expectation is that like the kids whose house we're going to is going to share their toys, or the toys they don't want to share
are put
away. That's my expectation. Now, that is not the expectation that we've gotten when we've gone to people's houses all the time. There have definitely been places that are like, well, we don't share that toy. Or like, I have a really good friend who she kind of is on the same wavelength as me as far as like, it's a new toy, we don't share new toys.
Right.
Okay, well, a new toy is a new toy when it's new, not indefinitely.
Right.
And she's kind of that mentality too, where if it's a new toy, we don't share new toys. And my kids know that rule because that's their rule with each other.
Right.
If it's a brand new toy, they don't have to share it ever, even with their brother.
Right.
Rayla really doesn't care right now. But the boys do sometimes want to play with her new toys. So I'll have to tell them it's her new toy. She does not have to share it with you.
Right.
Go away. Period. But we've gone to people's houses and they're just like, well, that's their favorite toy. They don't have to share it. And I'm just like,
then why is
they
it out?
need to put it away.
Right.
Like it. I mean, I don't want. Playdates are just as much for the child, I feel like, as they are for the parent. I don't want to police this.
Right.
All day long. I want to be able to send them away.
Right.
So unless you want to sit here and like police that, like just put the toy away.
Right.
Like, but then there's other people who believe that all toys are all children's toys. And I struggle with that because there's times that like we'll bring things places. And so for example, if we go to church, okay, we have close friends that like I'm fine with them sharing our stuff. And this is just like maybe my like snobbery coming out. Like they're like, we know them, like it's fine. But if like random kids come up and want to play with my kids' stuff, I'm just like, I mean, no.
Right.
I don't want, like, there's only 8 markers. There's already 4 kids here.
This is
You're
going to
not
turn
going
into
to come
something,
up
right.
and like, no, I'm not going to give you markers and coloring pages.
Right.
Like, no, they're ours, honey. Like, you need to go by your parents and hopefully they brought something for you to do. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, sorry. You know what I mean, though? It's like one of those things where it's just like, I don't want to share with you.
Right.
And I mean, I feel like my boundaries with sharing as an adult are probably a little more strict than most people feel comfortable with. I do not have any qualms. I am not sharing my food with you.
Right.
Get
your fork out of my face.
Yeah, don't touch my stuff. There's certain things that like I don't mind. Like I don't have huge qualms about like if somebody comes up and asks for gum. It's not a big deal. But if somebody comes up and asks for gum and then they go back and tell their group of friends and then like 6 people come up and ask for gum, to be honest, I will still give them the gum and I'll be super annoyed.
Right.
So sometimes I don't tell people that I have gum
Right.
because it turns into like I'm giving away my entire pack of gum, and that annoys me.
Right.
But Belinda actually tells me that when she like is in school, she will not pull out her gum. Because in high school, they would like she would lose an entire pack of gum in one class.
Right. It's fair game.
Yeah.
And you almost feel compelled like you're the bad person if you cut it off. Like, no, I was giving it to her.
Yeah.
Not to the classroom.
Yeah. It's like when I used to be a smoker and we were like at a bar or a concert or something and somebody would come and ask for a cigarette. You never gave them a cigarette because you'd be handing out half a pack of cigarettes.
Those are expensive too.
Which is more expensive than a pack of gum. But it's just one of those things where it's just like as an adult, when people ask me for things, I'm just like, no. Like if you want, like if we are at a park and we're cooking out and somebody comes over and they're just like, hey, I completely forgot ketchup. Can we borrow your ketchup really quick? Yeah, sure. You can borrow my ketchup really quick, bring it back. If somebody comes over and they're like, hey, we forgot hot dog buns. Can we have an entire pack of hot dog buns? Maybe if I had an extra pack of hot dog buns, I might. But like and I don't know where that line is.
Right.
Because like I know people who definitely would not give out ketchup.
But it's set in your mind, right?
Yeah.
Like this is okay, this is not. Yep.
But it's not like it's clearly dictatable.
There's no fast or set rules, right? Yeah.
Like and it also depends on how close I am to the person.
Right.
Because I am very much like it takes a village to raise a child. So there are people in my village who I will let have basically anything.
Right.
And who I like one of my friends, she's got 3 kids who are around the same age as all my kids. Their relationship I manage more as like a sibling relationship or a cousin relationship than I do of like a detached friendship.
Okay.
So I handle those situations differently. But that doesn't fall for like every kid that my kids are exposed to at our church. There's like 4,000 of them.
Right.
Like I don't treat them all the same.
Right.
And there are times that like I'll handle Loretta differently than I'll handle random girl who's exactly the same age.
Right.
So sharing is very hard for me because there have been times that we have Bible quizzing events, we have overnight trips, we have long day trips, and we tell the parents, if your kid is bringing a toy, they need to share it or don't bring it. Because I'm not here to police. I don't want to. So, and the thing is I think that in that situation, the parents have every right to tell their kids, you don't have to share your stuff. But I have every right as somebody who's going to be with your kids all day to tell them not to bring it.
Right.
So,
and I feel that's fair.
Yeah.
And it's exactly that. I don't want to have to be playing the mediator for a whole weekend.
Well, yeah, and the thing is like I don't know what share rules they have in their house.
Right.
I mean, there's 9 kids.
Right.
They could all have different share rules.
Right. And is your kid really not wanting to share because that toy is super precious to them? Or are they not wanting to share because
they're being a brat?
Right.
Exactly. Which is why we just have basically a no toy rule.
Right.
Like, and the thing is, like, I like us coaches sometimes like we'll bring like a bucket of Legos for the boys, or we'll bring markers and coloring stuff. Right. So like they're like communal.
Right. Things. It's for everybody.
Yeah. But I mean, sharing is just so hard because my mom, she has a hard time with the kids because she just wants them to share all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, they don't have to though.
They don't have to. With Joe, as you said, if someone comes over, if there's something that I don't want them to play with, it gets put up and put out of the way. But otherwise, it's all fair game.
Yeah.
And I will, like, if someone's being super rough or something like that, I'll step in and just say, hey, let's be respectful.
Yeah.
because I'm the mom that will throw something away when it's broke.
Yeah.
Or pieces are missing. I don't have time to do all that. So
Glue things back together.
I'm like, I've got way more better things to do. So I will step in and just, hey, be respectful, or especially if it comes to books. Like if they get out books and they start stomping around, I mean, you're stomping on my prizes right now.
Yeah. Well, and see, I have
heart.
I have a different relationship with books.
Yeah.
So with my kids with books, it's just like I'm the same. I dog ear my books.
Yeah.
My books they're used.
Yeah. No, we use them, but if you're just gonna throw them on the ground and stomp on them,
they're not blocks.
Yeah, we don't do that. We don't tear out pages. We don't.
Yep.
So, I will step into
or
that.
If you tear out pages, there will be consequences.
Right.
Are you listening, Rayla?
Right. So I do have the very clear line of, hey, you want your friends to come over, you got to be willing to share your toys. And if he refuses to give up something, it's like, no, you left this out. If you don't want to share it, then it's too bad.
There'll be consequences.
These are the rules. You have to share with your friends. But when we do go to like another person's house, I struggle because I want to step in. And this one mom was super cool about it. Joe is a stuffed animal person. Like his bedroom has stuffed animals just popping out when you open the door. And so he found the stuffed animal at his friend's house and literally just carried around the whole time he was there. Well, his little friends started like trying to take it away from him and stuff, and Joe would fight for it. And finally, and I'm always like, do I let him figure it out? Or do I step in because I want him to know that it's okay to say, no, I was playing with this. But the mom was super cool. She brought her son over and said, hey, he's had this since he's walked in the door.
Mm-hmm.
So he very obviously likes it. And so he's going to get to play with it. So I was like, all right, I don't have to step in on this. But
in that situation, like I go both ways on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like you, but at the same time, I'm also like, I mean, it's not your toy, it's their toy. So
right.
It's so hard.
Right. And so but when we do go to like the park and stuff, if he has something and we don't know, like you said, at church, you don't know who that person is, you don't have to share. It's nice to share. You should share. But if you're not comfortable with that person, you don't have to share. I mean, we're just teaching them to trust their gut, right?
Yep.
And what's wrong with that? I trust my gut. I mean, we go to the grocery store and there is one guy in particular that maybe he's the nicest guy in the world. He really is, but my gut says, and so I intentionally will not let him talk to Joe. So why should we not let our children also develop that gut instinct?
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's also like you made a comment and I read a comment too about like, and I kind of brought it up before, but our cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like we would never let an adult come up and just take our cell phone.
Nope.
Like, what are you doing?
I don't let people take my food. I'm just going to keep going back to the food. I mean,
But it's true. Like I've gone out to eat with a bunch of women, and it's like I get a slice of cheesecake, and they're all just like, "Can I have a bite?" No, I just want one bite, and I'm just like I have been at a table of grown-ups where I've just like all of them want a bite, and I've just like blown raspberries over my food, and people are just like, "I can't believe you just did that." I'm like, "It's mine. Don't touch my stuff."
Right.
Like,
if you all want to share a piece, get your piece to share.
Yeah.
This is mine. So. Food is my hot button issue.
It's so funny because I vividly remember when I blew raspberries over my cake and they all just looked at me like I was like being a spoiled child, and I was like, I'm not though. Like it's mine. Like it's only so big, and I want to eat it.
Right.
And if all of you eat it as well, it's gonna be gone. Or half gone, and I would have had half more left if you all didn't graze on my cake. I don't want to share.
Can I tell you? I'm not going to say who the person was. I'll tell you offline. But somebody took me out for my birthday a few years ago before I had Joe, and it was for my birthday. So we ate, and the waitress comes up. Do you want a dessert? I want tiramisu. Sure, it's my birthday. And no, everyone else is like, no, I don't want a piece. I don't want a piece. I don't want a piece. And the person who, when the tiramisu came, the person who had offered to take me out was sitting next to me, and they took their fork without even asking or thinking and started to come over. And I'm like, boop, nope. And they're like, you're not going to share. I'm paying for this for you.
I will pay for my own cake, thank you. That does not. Sounds like this is a quid pro quo situation right here. No.
So I'm probably just gonna forever struggle with this issue. Just because growing up, I was taught I had to share everything, and it came to it does come to a point where you're letting people walk all over you. I mean, it doesn't just stop there with sharing your physical things. It comes to a point where it's impacting, it kind of impacts your whole life. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, is that when you let somebody stomp on you for one thing, you're going to start letting people stomp on you for everything.
And I think because I've always been pretty assertive.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like because of that, I don't really feel bad about not sharing things. And I don't really feel bad about not wanting to share things. And not that I want to raise my kids to kind of be like jerks. But I also, I mean, I have had people who have outwardly like tried to make me feel bad that I do not want to share with them. And I'm just like, no, it's okay. Like, we've gone places before, and I've like ordered food, and the waitress will be right there, and I'll look at that person. She's like, okay, you guys just want some pretzels and cheese to share? And I'll look at the person across me and be like, I'm not sharing my pretzels, so if you want pretzels, you need to order your own. And the waitress will just like look at me, and she's just like, oh, and if it's a close friend, they'll be like, it's fine, I knew she wasn't gonna share the pretzels,
right?
But like, it's, I don't feel bad. Like,
that's your boundary,
if
right?
I want to share with you, I will make it explicitly clear that we are sharing.
Right.
Otherwise, do not assume that I like. If I'm ordering a drink, you would never assume that I am sharing that with you. Why, if it's like food, would we assume that I'm just going to share?
Right.
And like, if I get a new phone, like, I'm not going to share that with you.
Right.
So why, if my kid gets a toy,
right,
would you think that I would share it? I just don't understand why with little people we just assume like you should know that you have to share.
And I get it. People are like, well, there's different values on those items, but it's not in their mind. It's to them, their little.
You're right.
Their Lego.
Their Lego means way more than my phone.
Right. And so I get what they're trying to say, but no, it's not. It is the same thing. You're equating it to different levels of maturity. So.
Mm-hmm. And we do, like, with the kids, as far as sharing, like, in our house, we set timers. If it is that important to you,
can wait.
Then you can wait 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's never, like, 30 seconds.
Right.
Because, like, I truly believe that John doesn't want what Malcolm's playing with. He just doesn't want Malcolm to have it. So I will set a 10-minute timer. And if you still want it in 10 minutes, you can have it.
He wants the joy that Malcolm is having.
Yeah, and he's
playing
not
with
getting
it.
the same joy out of the toy.
Right.
It's true. Like, it's just not a thing.
That looks fun. I want to have that fun and take it away from him.
Yeah, and that's the mentality. That's what he wants to take. And it's like, but you're really not gonna be. You can't take that away from him.
Right.
It's just.
And I think that's one of my biggest angst watching kids on, even just on the playground, because that's where we have a lot of our interactions, is that and I do struggle, like, because I do want Joe to figure things out.
Yeah.
But I also want him to know that I'm his defender. I'll be there. I'll knock that little boy over. I mean,
yeah,
not really, but
no, but I get what you're saying though. Like, I will for sure have their back if I don't feel like they should share.
mm-hmm.
But it's also hard because, like, if somebody else's parent feels like they should share,
right,
it's like, well, you don't necessarily have the same boundary as I do. So, I mean, I guess
right.
Now
right.
our kids are commingling in a way that, because like I said before, I mean, we've been at people's houses where they don't want they don't want their kids to have to share. And I'm just like,
right. I roll. Why are we here then?
This is annoying to me. Like,
right.
I didn't know I was supposed to bring my own toys.
Right. No, I think even more frustrating is when you do get into those play situations and there is the kid that insists on taking stuff away, and then just like 2 seconds later they're throwing it on the floor and walking away. Like, it
Was
really
that necessary?
Right. And so that it's so, I don't know. And I try to be non-judgmental, because I know some kids, no matter how you raise them, they like Joe do and say what they want.
See, but I'm not a big, like, I don't really judge parents based on their kids' actions. Mm-hmm. I know that not all people are that way.
Right.
Because I know that despite how much I try to teach John good things,
he's going to do what he wants.
He's really going to do what he wants.
Right.
And I really hope that when he gets in somebody's face and starts, you know, when he bends over and farts in somebody's face, that somebody's not like, you have horrible parents. That they just accept the fact that he is who he is and he's just kind of his own person.
Right.
Despite me. But I refuse to raise a bunch of pushovers.
And that's my fear.
I won't do it.
I don't want him to think that it's okay for people to walk all over him.
I would rather my kids be stingy and someone somewhere be like, you're rude.
Right.
You're a rude kid. Than for them to give up everything to make other people happy. Because that's just going to get them nowhere in life.
People pleasers.
And that's just not me.
Mm-hmm.
I just refuse. And it does kind of come back to when we talked about manners.
Mm-hmm.
I think manners are important. I think sharing is important. But I also think it's important to have good boundaries with people.
Mm-hmm.
And to make sure that your kid knows that it's okay not to share.
Right.
In certain situations, you have to share. But that doesn't fall everywhere.
Right.
And I think that maybe it's an overcorrection from you need to share everything to you don't really need to share.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an overcorrection, but I'm okay with that because I don't want my kids to feel like people can walk all over them.
Right.
I just don't. I refuse.
Right.
People will not be walking all over my children. And if that makes people think that they're brats or they're spoiled or whatever, like.
And vice versa. I do teach Joe that if just because there's something that he sees and he wants it, you can't just go take that away from somebody.
No, I for sure am the same way.
Yeah. It's
like that's theirs.
Mm-hmm. Or if we're at a place, at a neutral place, like the library, one of the libraries over by us has a train table and the trains and stuff. And, that's a hot place to be. And it creates like a lot of tension. And I've actually had to go in and say to some other kids, no, he was playing with that. because
Yeah.
Joe would just let him take it away. And but vice versa, I've also gone to Joe and said, hey, this is not our table. We are not in our home. You got to give like 10 of these away.
Yeah.
You can't keep all of these trains. So there is balance to it. I don't want to make anybody to walk away thinking that it's all one-sided and I'm just telling my kid he doesn't have to share. I also tell him that if somebody doesn't want to share with him,
Oh yeah, it's
they don't
definitely
have to.
it's a two-way street for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a two-way street of we're really just gonna kind of like not be a crappy human.
Respect.
Yeah.
Right? I think that people think making your kid share everything is teaching them respect, but you're not teaching them respect for themselves.
Yeah.
And I want Joe to have respect for others, and I want him to have respect for himself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I am more, I think it's more important for me for them to have respect for themselves.
Right.
Like if you made me choose, I want them to respect themselves
Right.
more. Like cuz you know what, I'm that person who like you need to respect your elders.
Mm-hmm.
I don't teach my kids that like people need to earn respect. Like some people just should get respect.
Right.
Period. However, it's more important for me that they respect themselves more than respecting their elders, more than respecting, you know, police, more than respecting authority. It's more important that they respect themselves. The other things are important as well. Like my boys have, you know, appreciation for police officers. They have appreciation for older people, you know, but that doesn't mean that older people and police officers can treat my kids like crap.
Right.
And they're just gonna, you know, just have it ingrained in them like, oh, well, you're an old person. You just get to treat me like garbage and I have to respect you.
One of my
Meh.
another hot button issue for myself is that it's, well, I am who I am, so I get to say and do whatever I want. No, you don't. You don't get to just say whatever you want to me.
No, that's not a thing.
Right. So I don't disagree with that. I don't know. It's hard because when you say I want my kids to have more respect for themselves, it almost sounds like you're saying I don't care about anybody else. But
I know that's what it sounds like.
Right.
That's totally not what I
but
mean.
I get what you're saying because I guess this is what I'm trying to say is that because I want to correct anybody that may be thinking that is that teaching your kids to respect themselves is not a bad thing.
Right? No, I totally agree.
So I guess I just wanted to follow back up on that is that it's a struggle because you want to, how do I say this without sounding like I'm going to teach my kid to be a jerk? I'm not teaching him to be a jerk, but I'm also not going to teach him that it's okay for you to
be a doormat.
Right.
Yeah. And like I've said, I mean, maybe it's because I have such a strong personality. And having a strong personality, I've struggled in life in many capacities. I don't want it to come off like I have a strong personality, so everything's been easy for me. It hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a strong personality. I've struggled in many capacities. Like people tell me I'm mean. They call me the B word.
A controller.
Yeah, I'm controlling.
Dictator.
Yeah, all those things. For sure. And the thing is like with a strong personality has to come a thick skin. So I definitely sometimes, you know, teach my kids that they need to have thick skin as well. And when it comes to sharing, if somebody doesn't want to share with you, you need to accept that.
Right.
You know, you need to accept the fact that they don't want to share as much as you expect them to accept it.
Right.
So it definitely is a two-way street.
Yeah.
For sure. So I'll just raise a bunch of jerks. It's fine.
I will too.
I mean, I guess to whose standard though? Because right. I feel like all the moms that I surround myself with, and maybe it's because we're just like-minded, but we for sure have the same mentality when it comes to share, or similar mentalities, I
Mhm.
should say, when it comes to sharing. Which is helpful because then I don't have to feel like it's so bad.
Right.
But I mean, really, when it comes down to it, I don't want my kids to give away their stuff just because there's other people around.
Mhm.
And I would never go to a park and expect somebody else to bring toys for my kid.
Right.
Like, we've been at the splash pad before and there's like a random cup around and he'll be playing with it, and I'm just like, nobody has come to claim the random cup. You're good, but I don't
Right.
know whose that is. So if they come back for it, you need to give it up. But
Right.
I don't know.
Right. No, I completely agree. Like there was I think it was it wasn't last summer, it was the summer before. Have you seen the Stomp Rockets? Oh, they're pretty cool. So it's these little it's like a rocket. You get these little things with a foam ball tip on there, and you put it onto the launcher, and then at the end of it there's like an air type thing, and you stomp on it and it shoots the rocket up into the air.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at the park one day, and there was a guy there that was playing with it with his kids, and Joe was so excited about it and wanted to get involved in it, and I actually made him kind of stand back. And then at one point when his excitement was overwhelming him, I said, why don't you go ask if it's okay to play with their toy? And the guy was like, oh yeah, sure. And the kids were like, yeah, try it. And so the guy was very nice, and then had them all taking turns to do it. But that's, I guess,
but they didn't have to do that.
They didn't. If he had said no, I would have said, Joe, nope, they're not, they don't want to play right now. And I wouldn't have made that parent feel like a jerk, because you could tell it was brand new. The box and the wrapping and everything were sitting right there. They brought that to the park brand new and opened it up. And so I don't know. I guess
I do like the fact that you made him stand back and wait, though.
Mm-hmm.
So at least his interest was like genuine and it wasn't an impulsive interest.
Right.
Because I feel like sometimes, like with my kids, it's like they're like, oh, that's cool and fun. And then they stand there for 5 seconds. They're like, oh, all right,
they were done. Right.
Done. And so at least you gave the opportunity, I feel like, to them, for them to see, like, this is a legitimate interest that he has.
Yeah. He's not just sticking his nose in here to.
Yeah. He's not just being nosy.
Right.
So I think that I don't know that I've ever necessarily intentionally done that before, but that might be a good idea. Because normally I'm just like, no, that's theirs. Keep walking. That's not ours.
And I've actually had conversations with him. Like, I'm like, hey, dude, if you want to go play with that, you need to ask. And if they say no, you have to be cool with it. There's no crying, carrying on, acting like a fool. So that's our motto. No acting like a fool in public. So
that's fair. I feel like that's fair.
So I don't know. I guess in retrospect, I do teach both ways of it. But I think you're right. I think it is more important for me to ensure that I teach him that people aren't stomping on his feelings, or not feelings, but disrespecting him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's where I am.
So yeah. Well, let's go into our recommendations.
Okay.
Right after this break. All right, welcome back. So let's go through our recommendations. You got one you wanna give me?
I do. So I think I've actually done a recommendation for this before, or I know that I've at least mentioned it.
Yeah.
But this one is for the 1,000 hours outside challenge.
Yeah. Briefly talked about it.
So there's actually an account on Instagram. Sorry, my brain went blank for just a second. I was like, oh my God. There's an account on Instagram that you can follow, but then there's the hashtag that you can use as well. But basically the challenge is to get 1,000 hours outside with your kids.
Yeah.
And in a year, it's not like a month or anything, but it's in a year. And I was kind of getting, because I like challenges and I like to win. And so I was getting a little wary of actually being able to meet it. And I thought maybe I should just give up on this because, January was ice cold and then Joe got sick. And
Yeah, just to break down the math for everybody, that's about 20 hours a week.
yes. And so, and then February was cold.
That's an understatement.
Like negatives. And it's funny because if you follow their account on Facebook, there are people that are like, hey, we go out at -30. We just put on I'm like,
yep, that's the conversation I've had with my mother.
I'm like, God bless you. I don't appreciate that. I mean, when my face feels stiff the minute I walk outside, I'm done with the outdoors. So but just with the weather getting nicer, we've been able to spend like longer extended days out. And so I see the numbers adding up, but it's been nice. It's not just that. To me, it was a challenge because I thought, I don't think we actually spend 1,000 hours outside because it's true when it's cold. I'm like, nah, I'll pass. So it did force me to try to get him outside more when it was colder. But it has been also nice just getting out there. And because a lot of times my thought is, I don't have anything to do out there. If I go out there, then I'm going to have to entertain him.
Which is kind of true, especially if you have a girl.
Right. And so
I feel like boys are much more willing to just pick up a stick.
And he is now at this stage that if we give him a water hose and like a shovel or, as you said, stick, anything, it's, I mean, 3 times within the last week, he's come in just head to foot mud. So but it has been just really nice to get out there. And I will say it is different this year than last year. He's not as needy.
Yeah, no, because he's getting older.
Right.
Sure.
And so, but I have actually enjoyed the time getting out there and just, even if I just grab a book, sit and read a book, but just that sun, I've noticed I feel better about life.
Yeah.
It's so
that vitamin D, man.
It really changes your life.
It does.
So I encourage you to get on either Instagram or Facebook. They have an account on both and just kind of check it out. Some people, the Facebook page account can sometimes be a little overboard. Because
and the fluffy stuff.
No, with people that are doing stuff with their kids.
Oh, the activity.
I'm like, whoa, that took a lot of planning. But there's some interesting ideas and things that you might not think about to do with your kids and stuff like that. And it's just, for me, it's nice because I like a challenge, but it's also benefiting the both of us to do it. So yeah, that's my recommendation. How about you?
So my recommendation is, so Rayla she's going to be 2 in June and Malcolm is going to be 4 in June. They're 2 years, or they're just under 2 years apart. They're 1 day apart. So what I did for them the other day was I got out all of our shoes and I put them on the floor in the kitchen and they played around and tried on shoes and walked around for like 3 hours. So my recommendation is pull out some of your old shoes, like pull out some of your heels, pull out some big clanky shoes, and like, I mean, if they're old and they're sitting in the bottom of your closet, like,
who cares?
Exactly. They're gonna ruin some of them. I mean, so don't grab your best like Jimmy Choos and be like, here, you can clank them around the kitchen. But it was a really fun activity that I actually saw recommended on one of the Instagram pages that we follow. I don't remember which one, sorry. But I was like, oh, that's a good idea because my kids love putting on shoes. Mm-hmm. So it was a fun activity. So I thought that I would share it.
That is nice. I've noticed within the last maybe 6 months that Joe has really been into shoes, either his dad's or mine, excuse me. And so that's actually a good idea. Just set out some of the old shoes and say, have at it, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they can, and if you do it in a floor that like makes noise, they can like clank it around a little bit more. And I don't know. They had a lot of fun. So
who doesn't like the sound of click
right
on the floor
It always
anyway?
makes me walk fancier when I have clanky shoes.
So true.
Just like I'm super important. Just gonna clink around.
I am the boss.
Yes. So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us for today. And if you want to reach out and continue a discussion with us, you can reach us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest at Messy Bun Mamas Podcast, at Twitter at bun_podcast. You can email us at messybunmamaspodcast@gmail.com or visit our website at www.messybunmamaspodcast.com. Thanks.
Have a great week.
I am Messy Palm Heads.
This is Messy Bun Mamas Podcast.
This is Messy Poop.
Messy buns, you silly.